Welcome in this week, everybody, to the Parent Projects podcast. I'm Tony Sievers coming to you from Scottsdale, Arizona. This week, we have got on our shows, we work through Home is Where the Heart Is. We're going to tackle overcoming when stuff and just the anxiety, other things that are related to that. We've got Matt Paxton on the show from hit TV shows Hoarders, from Legacy List, and also we're going to hear a little bit about his book. In today's episode, stay tuned.
You're listening to Parent Projects, a family media and technology group production. Now here's your host, Tony Sievers.
Hey, whether you've got a fear of throwing that thing out, you run into, they've got projects that were started, you've got chairs to upholstery, you've got bolts and bolts of fabric meant for projects and templates that hadn't happened, or you're afraid of missing on a little bit of family history and no time to figure it out and sort it all out. So you've got Matt Paxton, and he is the pro at this. This is, by and large, this is the guy that can help you understand how to dig into those things, how to not give up when it comes down, and to maybe give yourself a little reprieve from the guilt and the fear in this to find a little love and laughter. Matt, thanks for joining us this week on the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
It's always a blessing to sit down and talk with you. You've been at this, for years. I think the first time we ran into each other several years ago at a conference with move managers, you were working on the hoarding show, dealing with hoarders and that just complexity of a really difficult situation. Today, you've got a new show that's going on and some other and a focus that's taking a lighter side of that. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so I've been cleaning houses almost 25 years now. When I was 21, my dad, my stepdad, both my grandfathers, all four men that raised me, they all passed away in about 18 months. And I had to clean out all their houses. And it was really sad. It was really hard. And I was lost. And I didn't know what to do with all the stuff. No one had written a book about what to do with it, and especially the emotional side of that. And so I remember by the third house, my grandfather had said, if something's challenging, do that for a job, because people will pay you to do it. And I remember thinking, like, this is what my grandpa was talking about. I need to do this as a career. And it was kind of a calling. But, jump forward, 25 years, I've cleaned every house in the country. I feel like everything from estates to really extreme hoards. I've seen it all from 10,000 rats to 300 cats, man. I've seen it all. And at the end of the day, I found the really positivity of it is helping aging seniors relocate. I love the stories. I love the stuff. I love the emotional parts of the families. And I really love, I love the stories. So my new show, Legacy List with Matt Paxton, is about, it's about hearing the stories behind all the cool stuff in our house. And why and what we've really accidentally discovered is why we hold on to this stuff so much.
Yeah. So I rattled a couple off at the beginning that I know we hear pretty commonly. Are there a couple of those that just at the top you start running into, or those top loggerhead ideas on why there's so much?
Yeah, everybody thinks that either they're going to need it in the future, even though they haven't needed it for the last 10 years. They think that it's going to be worth something financially, although it may or may not be. And they think that their grandkids either do or don't want it. And so there's two views on that. They think, all my grandkids are going to want all my stuff, or they think the opposite. Nobody wants any of my stuff. Yeah. And I'll actually tell you, it's right down the middle.
Yeah. Well, I so long, Grandma, if you're watching, that Beanie Baby collection comes my direction, we're probably going to be okay.
If you've got a Longaberger basket full of Beanie Babies, then we're in trouble. Okay. And if it's, the biggest challenge we see is the brown furniture in the dining room, right? And everyone thinks that nobody wants it. And what I'll tell you is they probably don't want the dining room furniture, but they'd love to go shopping in grandma's closet. Right? Like, you'd be amazed the stuff. So it's not that they don't want your stuff, it's they don't want that stuff. They do want other things. And the most important part that I'll teach you today is if you tell the stories, if you really share those stories about the items that matter most in your family, you're going to find that your kids do want your stuff. They want other things, just not necessarily the china or the dining room tables.
Well, and giving yourself time to kind of sort that out and give everybody the right time to approach that conversation, to come in, to take a look at those things. I think that's something we can get into a little bit today. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely. I mean, time is the whole issue here, right? We're worried about it because we're running out of time in life, but we've taken a whole lot of time, often 50 to 70 years, to accumulate all this stuff. And then we think we're going to cram it all into a 3-day holiday weekend and clean it out and share the stories. And that's just not realistic. And that's why people get so anxious and so overwhelmed. And that's why they quit and call a professional like me, because they don't give it the time that it deserves.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I digging into how to get started is one of the top things. I'd really like to cover that as soon as we come back from this break. Stay tuned with Matt Paxton, A Legacy List.
Sometimes I'd like to smack old age right in the kisser. Ow!
I always get the best parking spot.
I think she needs a little more help.
Monday.
What I really need is a boyfriend that can drive at night.
I can make a fashion statement out of anything.
I will be fabulous.
I have a little crush on my pharmacist.
With ComForCare at your side, you can live your best life possible. We know families can't be there 24/7, which is why we can help with as much or as little home care as you need. From medication reminders and meal prep to everyday chores and errands, so you can live in your own home on your terms.
I wouldn't let aging stop me from being me.
Call ComForCare now and let us create your personalized care plan and find the perfect caregiver match.
Can you show that number again? She was texting.
Together with ComForCare, you can both live your best life possible.
And welcome back. This week, we are going to help you keep the memories, lose the stuff. We've got Matt Paxton, both author of the book, literally wrote the book on it, and Legacy List, where you get to see him put that to work day in and day out as they work with families to help them get started through some of those challenging issues of taking the anxiety out of all the stuff that we've gathered through our life that then gets turned over in a parent project. Hey, Matt, so before, great setup. You know, when a family comes in and starts facing the situation, they look in that attic, they look in the garage. Let's say it's a garage. Like, I always know, you pull up to a house and you see all the cars are parked outside, and this is one they know they got to do. Like, where do you even begin to put yourself in a mindset if you have to tackle that?
So I don't start in the garage, to be very specific. I look for a small space that's achievable, right?
Yeah.
Because if we grab onto something really, really challenging, we're going to quit. It's natural. It's normal to quit. And you're calling people, you're on here today watching this because you need help, right? It's been challenging. And so when I'm telling you something really small, I mean like a stack of junk mail, or let's start with the junk drawer, maybe like one drawer. I really love starting in the bathroom, because if you're going to cry over soap, well then, man, we need to talk about the other show that I'm on, right?
Right.
I really want to keep it small and achievable.
Yeah.
So I actually tell people 10 minutes. One of my tips is called a 10-minute sweep. I want you to work every night, 5 nights a week for 10 minutes. That's it. And it's not about what you accomplished. It's that you did accomplish something. You've shown yourself, you've proven to yourself that you can do this. And that's why I want you to start really, really small. I mean, literally, it could be 10 pieces of junk mail and all you've done is torn them up. That's still something that's successful. And if the only thing you do is you go to bed and you've cleaned out your sink and it's clean and there's no dishes, then that's still a success. And so I'm talking really, really, really small, and allow yourself that time to celebrate and be proud of what you did.
And that's a great element to highlight in the front end, the why against that. And then we work so much better when we can see success. That carrot is a heck of a lot better than the stick. And there's going to be a couple of things that you have to work through that are going to be rough. They're going to be decisions ahead. Most of us with a parent project are going to have some really hard decisions in life, and some of them will be life and death decisions that we don't get right. And you've got to start with different projects like this that you can celebrate the wins. And I love the idea of thinking small at first, accomplishable. Also, you talked about doing it 5 nights in a week. That starts speaking into just setting up a meaningful small habit, right?
Yep. It's a habit. It becomes a habit, not a job, right?
Yeah.
And another thing I have people do at the beginning is actually create what I call a legacy list. And that's the name of my TV show on public television. But a legacy list is a list of 5 or 6 items that mean the most in your family. and they tell your family story. They tell your family legacy, and they're rarely financially valuable. They're almost always emotionally valuable. This painting behind me right here, this is my dad's painting. Right? My dad's been dead 24 years. And that's a picture of my great grandfather. His name is Temple. Guess what my youngest son's name is?
Yeah.
Temple. All right. My dad drew this painting in 1969, the summer of 1969, because he used to sit on his tractor in that same field and dream. Right. And Paxtons are a line of dreamers, man. We dream big, and we work hard. And that's what this picture was about. And so I keep this as a legacy list item for me, and I keep this. Now, here's the key. If I don't tell you that story, that's just paint on fiber. It's not really anything. If you don't know that that's about my dad and my great grandfather and the farm they had, the farm they settled and homesteaded, and now I'm in a line of 4 or 5 generations of entrepreneurs, and my son is named after that kid, that's a much more important story now. That's a much more important item. And this is by the way, this is a podcast about getting rid of stuff, not holding on to things. But if I tell that story, I already know who's getting that painting when I die. Oh, I'm only 48. Hopefully that's a long time away. But my youngest son, Temple, is getting it because I've shared that story with the families, right? And so I'm talking, this legacy list is about the 5 to 6 most important items. And why that matters is once you've established that list and you've shared that list and you've told the stories, you're going to find that when you get into the garage and I find the old red Folgers can filled with my great-grandfather's nails, it's not as emotional as it was because I've already celebrated that man. I've already talked to him. We've already established what matters and what his legacy is. And what we found over my 20-year career is that you hold on to things because of the emotions attached to the people that gave it to you. And now that holds 2 emotions for me, really 3, my great-grandfather, my grandfather, and my father, and now my son.
Now your son, right, absolutely. And
now my son that I've shared. Go ahead.
No, you're right on the track for it.
But as you share these stories, it will actually allow you to get rid of the stuff that doesn't matter later. And so you're heavy. You're really at the beginning of this process. You're really putting a lot of stories out there, and you're documenting a lot of things. But what it does is it makes the back end of it go a lot faster and smoother, and really drama free.
You're acknowledging too. The emotion does play a role, and you're giving, especially your family member that's assisting to pull that together, that time that you're pouring in. I can imagine for mom and dad, them knowing that you care enough to find those types of things in that moment is something that can build that that emotional credibility in that bank account when you've got to move them maybe a little quicker along into something else.
Yeah, it's all of them. Look, I mean, I think about my clients. A lot of my clients, when I started this, all my clients that I was talking to had been in World War II, right? And I remember 20 years ago when I started this, I had this one client, and he was a younger man, and he goes, I don't know if my dad can really do it. I'm like, dude, your dad fought in World War II. I think he can handle his garage. I'll be honest, right? And I literally laughed in the guy's face, and I was like, your dad's a little tougher than you're giving him credit for. He's stuck because of the emotions, right? He's stuck because of the life that he lived. And no one wanted to hear his stories. All right. And when I got him to sit down and share the stories, and I gave him a way to share his stories, he really started telling them. And then all of a sudden, the kids wanted some of the items because they were hearing these amazing stories from Grandpa. And he was having an easier time letting go of the stuff that didn't matter.
How is a family? Well, I guess with legacy listed on the show, that's easy because you've got a whole film crew that's capturing off of that. Any ideas on how other families can kind of memorialize that legacy?
Yeah, I mean, I really love grandparent show and tell nights. I do Zoom nights all the time with families, and they just get on Zoom, and someone has to help grandma get on, and she holds up an item and she starts to tell the stories of, well, these are my glasses, and I wrote my first book, and I went to college, and grandma tells the stories on Zoom, and you're able to record it, right? And you record these story nights. And now you have it. It's shareable. We didn't have to fly to the beach. It's very normalized. And what I really love about it is you start to find that everyone else in the family is there. And I tell everyone, when you do this, put it up, put everyone's windows up, because then you start to say, like, when this gets played in 10 years, like, oh man, Uncle John had hair. And like, oh my gosh, that's your dad. I never met your dad. Like, my kids never met my dad. And I wish they knew his voice. He had a very distinct voice. But it's really not as hard as it looks. You just have to make the time to do it. And a thing you and I, we used to talk all the time back in the day. And what I'd always find in the house is a voice recorder. Someone would buy a voice recorder. It would still be in the package. Yeah. And they didn't give it to the person. The person died, and all those stories died with them. It's not really necessarily about the technology that you use. It's that you made the time to sit down and tell the stories and record them. And we all can listen to that. If we do that, you can take pictures. There's a really good app called Artifacts that I use. I love it. It's called Artifacting.
Sure.
I use that app all the time. I can take pictures. I can record my voice. I can take a video of my story, whatever it is. There's a lot of ways, and the craziest way is you take a pen and you write it on the back of the picture. And if that's the best way you can do it, great. That's your way. I don't care what level of technology you use, but dedicate some time each night to sharing these stories. And you have to have an audience. That's the other part.
I think
someone has to listen.
Yeah, I think that's a key part, because of where some others have fallen down, where we'll see there's a lot of people that'll buy a book to start filling out, or they'll gift that thing.
Not going to do it.
It just,
Yep.
there isn't an audience that's there against that, or that whole win of it, which everybody wants, is still unfathomable as how that's going to come to
Dude,
bear.
I think I'm one of the funniest guys in the world, but if I'm telling jokes to myself in my room, there's no one to receive that. And so there's no energy back, right? So I'm not funny. I need an audience. It's why I'm on TV. I will really stress this. A lot of people are watching this right now and they think, well, I'm alone. I'm a widower, and I don't have anyone. There's so many people at church, so many neighbors, so many friends have said, is there anything I can do? Let me know. This is when you make those calls. Believe it or not, call a friend, call someone from church. It may not be your children, and that's okay. But call them and say, come over for an hour, please. I'm going to go through some pictures and tell you some stories. And let me tell you something. That ends up being a really, really cool night. Downsizing does not have to be depressing. It can actually be awesome. But you have to choose and allow that into your heart. You have to say, I'm going to enjoy this. And you might have to it might be awkward to call a friend and say, hey, can you help? Can you do this? But once you do it, you'll do it a lot. It's awesome.
I'm going to start calling you up. I'm going to call everybody up. I'm going to be like, hey, come listen to me talk. I need
Legacy Buddies, man. That was what I really wanted to call it. Legacy Buddies, man. I want that. It got shot down, but I wanted people to say, like, have a friend, right? That you go to her house and you guys share stories for an hour. And then the next week she comes to your house and you guys share stories. You can do it over coffee or tea or whatever. Do it that makes it comfortable for you. But if you start to make a commitment weekly on that, you're going to learn a lot about yourself, your friends, your family, your legacy, and you're going to have fun doing it.
Hey, I know that we have in our crowd and our listeners up there, we've got directors of senior service centers that are all over the country and friends we've met over the years. There is an idea right there, right? Put those nights
I'm just starting to do it. Yeah, I'm just starting to go to communities now and leading these legacy list nights where we teach people how to create their legacy list. And then someone comes up on stage and shares their stuff. Yeah. And as a professional storyteller, I mean, that's what I do on TV. I tell stories and I do it on podcasts. But like, I've never had the best story when I go to one of the senior living communities. I mean, those people destroy me, man, because their stories are amazing and they're heartfelt and they're nervous, right? But I'm telling you, anyone, if you're an entertainment director of a community, you're watching right now, you're not stealing it. You're just go do it. It's a legacy list night. It's real simple.
Yeah, love that. Okay, so you get through legacy list. Awesome place to start. Sets the tone. In core, what I also pulled off of that is its emotion. It's acknowledging that emotion off of that side. It's practically doing something to establish some level of habit, and then it's engaging other people. So you're getting the win of that handoff of this information when something comes through. Love all of those. Okay, that's happened. That's occurred. That's a beautiful 5 to 6 items we got off of a legacy list. I still have that stinking garage is sitting out there.
I still have a full garage, right?
Okay, how do I not give up again?
So we were, now you got to know where you're going, right? You've got to know your journey. You got to know your destinations, because if I'm going into a 2-bedroom at a community, well, then I'm not keeping everything in the garage. And so a lot of times people will think, well, I'm not sure. I want to downsize before I choose. You got to choose where you're going first. I think it's really important. Yeah. And then you just got to do the work. And so I say, start small. We talked about that already. Once you get into the garage, it's probably an hour at a time. Do it in the morning before it gets hot. Arizona in the summer, not the best time to do it, right? Like, we want to make sure we're smart about it. We want to take our time, but then you got to start sorting, and you really have to get realistic. You got to know if you know where you're going, you know what you need to take, right? My piles are donate, keep, sell, trash, and maybe. 5. Maybe is the one people really, really shake me on. They're like, well, I don't know about a maybe pile. That's going to be bigger than the whole house. And it might be. It's hard for a lot of us. I will tell you, my aging clients tend to be more intelligent than my younger clients. And I get in trouble for saying that. They just have more life experience. Okay. And a lot of times they know what everything is in their house. They just have more stuff and more time and more life. And so they have to inventory it. And so I learned this from working with hoarders. Hoarders are incredibly intelligent. And so they have to inventory everything in their head. And so that maybe pile works for someone that was really smart and worked hard and was really intelligent. So my older clients, I give them a maybe pile. And if you're not immediately sure, if you don't know immediately if you want to sell, keep, donate, or trash, then put it in the maybe pile. And what happens is when you come back to that pile, it's not a storage pile. It's a maybe. You had to find out, like, oh, okay, I do have 8 cheese graters. Okay, I can get rid of 7. Right. But I didn't know that when I found the first one. Right. And then I'm really big on donate. I cannot stress this enough. Faith is a large part of my life. I don't talk about it a lot, but you will always find happiness in giving to others. Yeah. I cannot tell you that you will find happiness in the financial value that you get for selling something. Okay. Right. So I am really into donate. Someone else will always need it more than you did. Find a charity that works for you. I just want one that you like and it makes you happy to give. You align with their morals and their mission. And if you do that, you'll continue to donate more and more and more. And donation is the fastest way to get rid of anything.
Yeah, it's a fulfilling way to get rid of all of those things.
It's real. It fills your heart. It does not fill your wallet. And by the way, neither does selling your stuff.
Right. I was having conversations with our producer on working with this family with like a beer stein collection, right? Dad's beer stein collection from all over, and they just were dead set. They were going to do a sale, and they wanted to work this sale because they had this really niche community, and this community would really like the stuff, and they'd want to do that. So they sat down there, and that was the kicker. I had a feeling it'd be something like that, and this guy came up and offered. He's like, "I'll give you $250 for all of the steins," and she's like, $250. And he must have had, there's like probably 30 or 40 of them he'd collected from everywhere. And he's like,
all around the world,
$2.50, right? I'll give you $2.50 for that one. And oh man, you could just watch this like drop.
Oh, it's a smack in the face.
Like don't set yourself up for that problem, right?
So
if you're gonna
no one's ever come to any estate sale I've done where they're like, hey man, I want to overpay for that and I want to do it really slowly. Right? Like people are there. There's no other situation where you think I'm going to offer a nickel. Like in no other situation you offer a nickel and someone wouldn't punch you in the face. But here's the kicker. You've already decided you don't want it. Right. I'm going to say that twice. You've already decided you don't want it. When you put a price tag on it, it's really just a fake barrier in your brain that you're putting in there to not get rid of it. Right. But if you found someone that loves steins, you find some young kid just like your grandfather that loves steins as much as that guy did, right? And you offer to give it to this kid, how much more is that joy of that kid just freaking out? He got this amazing, amazing collection, and he's going to hear the stories of your grandfather and of your family. He's going to love it and enjoy it more. That's so much more gratifying than getting $2.50 for the entire collection.
That's fantastic.
And by the way, you got to help the guy take it to the car.
Right. Like and get the story. And you get the story out of that, right? Or
I'm telling you, the story is always more valuable than the item and the person and the joy of donation. I am a huge proponent of donation. I can't stress that enough. And I promise you, what'll happen is you get to really connect it to the person. And then you get the excitement of the feeling, and then you want to do it more. And so the garage is the great place to start with that, because it's usually toys you no longer use. It's usually tools that you no longer use. By the way, donating tools, you could sell them, don't get me wrong, but donating tools is a great way to help another young man or woman start their family. Right. Like, it's an amazing opportunity. So like the garage is the garage and attic, you clearly don't use that stuff. So it's a great place to start donating and see how it works for you.
I love that. How about when you got to call in the experts? When do you know you're looking at something, or you look at something to gauge, I'm going to need to probably call in an expert for that one thing.
All right. This is not technically challenging. You're going to have a friend walk through the house, and if they go, wow, what's that? I've never seen that before. Well, that's when you want to call in an expert. All right. Something is only valuable if another third party, something's only financially valuable if an independent third party is willing to pay you for it. Right? My business is helping people with their houses. I have seen enough brown furniture. I have seen enough what's the dolls?
Hummels. Oh yeah, Beanie Babies, Hummels.
Beanie Babies, Longaberger baskets. I've seen it
Right.
all. All right.
Right.
Even Tupperware it's not as collectible as you think.
Yeah.
The magazines, all those things. If you see them in every house, they're not really going to be that valuable. But if I've never seen something before, that's when I want to call in an expert. Art, I want to call in an expert. I'll be honest. A lot of time, art sells for more than you think. Even if it's just like your grandpa or something, you'd be surprised. Get if you haven't seen it in another friend's house, then that's when you want to start calling in an expert. If you search online on the different Facebook pages, on different auctioneer websites, national auctioneer websites, start to search what you have. And if it doesn't come up, then that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Really
And these days you can search those by photograph. Take a photograph of it. You can throw that into Google. Google will search the photograph. You don't have to know what it's called or get the term right or anything off of that site as well. So
yeah, and just because it's listed for something doesn't mean that's what it'll sell for.
hey, that is huge.
Sell price. That's
Right.
really
Right.
you can list it on eBay for anything, but did it sell for that? That's what I
Right.
want.
Yeah, great. That's a super great point on there. What are some other places where people tend to where families can get tripped up as you're walking them through it?
The fantasy life. I mean, you think, okay, I'm going to use this again. I love it when I find an 80-year-old woman that's like, well, I'm holding onto that high chair. Oh, are you planning on having kids anytime soon? Well, no, that's for my grandkids. Oh, how old are your grandkids? Well, they're 33.
Right.
So it's for your potential great grandkids that don't exist. And by the way, if you're listening to this right now and you are saving something for children that do not exist yet, guess what? It probably doesn't. It's not going to happen. Okay. Yeah. And I don't mean that Timmy's not going to have kids. I mean that the kid stuff is degraded. It's not safe anymore. You don't need it. So your fantasy life is I'm going to save my 100 boxes of puzzles because I'm going to have family game night one more time. Okay. When's the last time you had family game night? Well, it's been 10 years. I mean, actually the kids pick me up at the driveway. They haven't even been in my house in 10 years, right? We go to someone else's house now for game night. Those are the situations when you're saving things for a life that doesn't exactly exist anymore. By the way, my size 28 jeans are also included in that category. I wear a very snug 36, okay? A very snug size 36. But my fantasy life is my size 28s. And I've moved them to 5 states. They've been through 2 marriages. It's ridiculous. I couldn't let go of them, okay? It's really, really important to live in your real life, not your fantasy life.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And that is a chime. You know what? Look at that. You got my wife to chime in as soon as you said the 28s need to go. I'm like,
This whole thing, Tony, this whole thing was a setup.
Right? You even got her attention today. Appreciated that one. Hey, a little bit more love and laughter here in just a second when we come back. Please stay tuned. We've got Matt Paxton on with Legacy List and Keeping the Memories, Losing This Stuff. Stay tuned for the Pair Projects podcast after this.
You're thinking about buying or selling. Maybe you're retiring, downsizing, or a major life event has made you consider a move. A Seniors Real Estate Specialist, or SRES, has unique training in helping 50-plus homebuyers and sellers. Why ask a Seniors Real Estate Specialist to assist you? An SRES understands the decision to move can be difficult and will provide you with an approach customized to suit your needs. They can help you navigate your choices because they have experience with 50-plus buyers and sellers and want to serve as a resource and guide. An SRES will patiently support you through each step. They will guide you through the major financial and lifestyle decisions involved in selling your family's home or moving to a new residence. They'll also tailor the marketing process to fit your needs and will be there when you need them. An SRES can draw upon a network of other professionals focused on 50-plus clients. Your SRES can provide referrals to a variety of resources at the local, state, and national level and on the internet. They're knowledgeable about senior housing options and can refer you to another SRES if you're planning to move outside the area. You can count on a Seniors Real Estate Specialist to guide you through the process of selling or buying your home, making the transaction less stressful and more successful.
And welcome back to the Parent Projects podcast. Those again that are following us, you can follow us on the major social media channels out there. We do broadcast live, and then we have a replay that's going to come. They'll post throughout the whole week next week. So if you miss catching this up front, you can catch us over at parentprojects.com. Just take a look for the podcast in the upper right-hand corner. I've got Matt Paxton today with Legacy List, Keeping the Memories, Losing the Stuff. He is literally the guy that wrote the book, and we've really boiled down. Matt, we've gone through some fantastic points. Particularly, I was just overviewing at the break here. Those getting started, understanding how to start small, work through all those. I want to recap that in a second. We really did a great job, I think, of how not to quit, and a couple of great ideas into there for us to recap. And man, this importance in the sharing stories, and just to feed the emotional beast that needs to be fed in this. And to keep things moving, to give that win across the board. Those are some of the seems to be some of those great ways to move yourself out of that guilt and fear into a little bit of love and laughter for this. Anything that I'm not thinking about before we start in a recap?
No, I mean, laughter, if you can tell, is a key proponent of this. You need to be able to laugh. This is a hard topic if you don't. And we typically go into this thinking it's going to be hard. It doesn't have to be. You need to make the mindset that this is going to be awesome. This is going to be full of joy. I can do this. It's really important. You give it the time that it deserves. It took you 50 to 70 years to create these memories. You need to spend more than 5 to 7 minutes telling those stories. To get really, really deep here, I mean, I spent 20 years in hoarded houses. And so I've analyzed stuff at every level, psychological, working with psychologists in the house with stuff. And at the end of the day, we hold on to stuff because of the emotions behind it. And really, believe it or not, we're looking for our self-worth and our value in stuff. And I can tell you that that's really a lost journey. Like it's empty. You're not going to find your self-worth at the end of your life in your stuff. You're going to find it in the time and the people and the love and the faith that you had in all of that. And so how do you combat that? You tell the stories. Like at the end of the day, it's all about the stories, because your stories live on forever. You live on forever in your stories. The stuff just gets passed on and lost or donated or sold. But if you've told those stories, then they live forever.
I genuinely love the story night, and also being able to not just help mom and dad where they're at and telling that story and the emotional side, but much like that painting that you have back behind you, your siblings have different feelings for stuff, especially now that you've got a son that's by name of that, right? Yeah. There are going to be times where, one client's been ready to move through mom and dad much, much quicker. They think they can make a resolve. They've dealt with that, especially end of life. You'll see that. There may be another family member who isn't ready to cross that emotional kind of path afterwards in a process, and they'll hold back from wanting to do any of these things because they're just not ready to emotionally process some of that, right?
One time I cleaned the house, and they were like, "Oh, when mom died," and I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I'm really sorry for your loss. When did your mom die?" And she was like 83. Right. It had been like 30 years. And then I promise you, about a year later, I'm doing a family. They were like talking about the funeral. I was like, "When was the funeral?" And they're like, "This morning." And we were in the house cleaning the house that afternoon. Families grieve at different pace. All of them are valid and correct for you in whatever situation you're in. And usually it's not the whole family feeling the same way, by the way. Usually we have multiples, but you got to do it at your pace and the way it works for you.
Yeah, and have a little bit of that empathy to your siblings. If they're not able to tackle this in the same path you are, finding that one that's capable of doing it. Again, making sure that mom and dad are getting this emotional connection. I think you've done a great way to share that experience and your perspective there of what is best, really beneficial. We'll say that. It's very beneficial for mom and dad to process that, to get them to let go of some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and timing, I think a lot of times families will hold on to their adult children's stuff because they don't have space for it in their new life yet. And I've seen seniors not move into a better location because they're basically turning their house into a storage unit. Don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to add, look, you open the door on another one. Whoa, how about just the storage unit, whether it's a house to a
Well, I'm not a big storage unit. Storage unit should be for 6 months, and that's it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, great.
That being said, I really am not cool with you turning your house into a storage unit for your adult children. And so to give a firm deadline, like say, "Hey, I'm moving in 6 months. If you don't come get this stuff by X date, I'm selling it. And you've given them, you didn't say tomorrow, right? You gave them 6 months.
Yeah.
Same thing with when family says they want an item. Yeah, I want the piano. Great. Come pick it up by July 5th or you don't get it.
Right.
Give them a firm date. And by the way, it's not on you to be the one that follows through. It's on them. If they want the item, it's on them. And so guilt is a word I'm trying to not talk a lot about, but if you're over 55, you naturally have guilt because that's the way you were raised, right? Yeah. If you're Catholic, you probably got a lot of guilt in you. Yeah. It is, okay? So we're in the right spot. But at the end of the day, it is not on you you are not a historian. You are not a librarian. It's not on you to hold the entire family history forever or all those items, right? I promise you, people would want you to have a better life and you can free yourself from that guilt. So many families that I help, I get that was my great aunt and she would just kill me if I got rid of it. Great. Where's your great aunt? Oh, well, she's been dead 40 years. And they're holding stuff for dead people, man. And I'm saying that very bluntly, that exact way on purpose. You should not feel guilty for holding on to items from people that are no longer with us because you're afraid of what they will think. I promise you they're busy. All right. They got things going on in their world. It's okay. They want you to have the life you want. You are free from this guilt. You are allowed to move forward. And you are allowed to have a good life. And if your stuff is holding you back, then it's not the life you want. And find someone that needs it more than you. Donate it to them. That's going to bring you joy. It's going to bring the people that you want to honor. It'll bring them joy too by giving it to someone that cares about it more willingly.
I love it. I love it. Hey, Matt, tell people where they can find the show.
You watch a TV show on public television, on PBS, anywhere in the country, or at mylegacylist.com, mylegacylist, or go right to I Am Matt Paxton. You can click on the link there. It'll take you right to it as well. But really, just type in Legacy List. It'll pop up somewhere online. And you can get my book. Same thing. Go to I Am Matt Paxton. Everything I got is on I Am Matt Paxton. My book, my show, lots of tips. I
do love that. Hey, Matt, just a wealth of information today. It was fast and furious. Can you believe 40 minutes into that?
I love it. I love it. It's my job, man. I love it. I got the best job in the world.
Yeah, me too. You have the second best job in the world because I think I'm pretty much rocking the first right now. Matt Paxton, Legacy List. If you're looking for more information off of this, you can find it down below when we do make the full posting of the podcast. Make sure to share this podcast, subscribe to us if you're looking for more off of this. Join us at parentprojects.com. And Matt, thank you again for sharing your time, talents, and treasures with us this week.
Thanks for having me, and I wish everybody luck that's watching.
Take care. Well, that's it for the team this week, and thanks for joining us. If you've enjoyed the content, remember to subscribe and to share this episode on the app that you're using right now. Your reviews and your comments, they really help us expand our reach as well as our perspective. So if you have time, also drop us a note. Let us know how we're doing. For tips and tools to clarify your parent project, simplify communication with your stakeholders, and verify the professionals that you choose, you can find us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Thanks again for trusting us. Until our next episode, behold and be held.
Thank you for listening to this Parent Projects podcast production. To access our show notes, resources, or forums, join us on your favorite social media platform or go to parentprojects.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Family Media and Technology Group Incorporated and Parent Projects LLC. Written permissions must be granted before syndication or rebroadcast.